You're standing on the deck of a cargo ship approaching an island in the Arabian Sea, and you're looking at something that shouldn't exist on this planet. Behind you is Yemen, one of the most unstable countries on Earth. Ahead of you is a place that looks like it belongs on another world. Trees that look like umbrellas turned inside out. Plants that bleed red sap. Landscapes so strange that scientists call this island the most alien place on Earth that you can actually visit. This is Socotra. And 37% of the species here exist nowhere else. Not in Arabia, not in Africa, not anywhere. Just here. On this isolated rock in the Indian Ocean. Socotra is 3,600 square kilometers of evolutionary isolation. It sits 240 kilometers off the coast of Yemen, 380 kilometers from Somalia. The nearest landmass is the Horn of Africa. But Socotra isn't African, it isn't Arabian, it's its own world. An island that broke away from the supercontinent Gondwana 20 million years ago and drifted into the Indian Ocean carrying life forms that would evolve in complete isolation. The result is an island where 1/3 of the plant species are endemic, found nowhere else, not similar to plants elsewhere, completely unique. This level of endemism is comparable to the Galapagos, to Madagascar, to Hawaii, but Socotra is smaller, more concentrated, more strange. The most famous species is the dragon blood tree, Dracaena cinnabari. It looks like an umbrella turned upside down and frozen in stone. The canopy is dense, flat, shaped like a mushroom cap. The branches spread upward and outward in perfect symmetry. When you cut the bark, red sap oozes out. Thick, dark crimson. It looks like blood. Hence the name, dragon's blood. Ancient civilizations believed this sap was literally the blood of dragons. They used it as dye, as medicine, atianni, as varnish for violins. Stradivarius violins were finished with dragon's blood resin from Socotra. The sap contains compounds that stop bleeding, fight infection, and have been used in traditional medicine for thousands of years. But the trees themselves are dying. Climate change is altering the monsoon patterns. The dragon blood tree evolved to capture moisture from fog and mist. The canopy funnels water down to the roots. But the mists are becoming less frequent. Rainfall is more erratic. The trees can't adapt fast enough. Younger trees aren't surviving. The forests are aging without replacement. In 50 years, there may be no dragon blood trees left in the wild. Walk inland from the coast and the landscape shifts. Limestone plateaus, granite mountains, dry riverbeds that flood violently during the monsoon. The Hagia Mountains rise to 1,500 meters. The peaks are often shrouded in clouds. The higher elevations are cooler, wetter. This is where the endemic species concentrate. The dragon blood trees, the desert roses, the cucumber trees. The desert rose, Adenium obesum socotranum, is another Socotran endemic. It's not a rose, it's a succulent with a massive swollen trunk that stores water. During the dry season, it looks dead. A bulbous grey trunk with no leaves. Then the rains come and it explodes into bloom. Pink flowers covering the branches. The contrast is surreal. Life emerging from what looked like stone. The cucumber tree, Dendrocitios socotranus, is the only tree in the cucumber family. Cucumbers are vines. They don't form trees, except here. The cucumber tree has a thick trunk, branches that spread like a normal tree, and produces small cucumber-like fruits. It exists because Socotra has been isolated long enough for a vine to evolve into a tree. That's 20 million years of evolutionary pressure creating something that shouldn't exist. The island's isolation wasn't just geographic, it was climatic. New Socotra sits in the path of the monsoon winds. For half the year, the seas around the island are so rough that boats can't land. The winds are too strong, the waves too high. This meant that even when sailors knew Socotra existed, they could only visit during a narrow window, a few months a year. Then the island was cut off again. This isolation preserved the ecosystem. It also preserved the human culture. The Socotri people have lived here for at least 2,000 years. They speak Socotri, a language that predates Arabic. It's part of the modern South Arabian language family, related to Mehri and Jabali, languages spoken by small populations on the Arabian mainland. But Socotri evolved separately. It has no written form, it's passed down orally, and it's endangered. Younger generations are learning Arabic. The language is fading. The Socotri people are pastoralists. They herd goats and cattle. They fish. They harvest frankincense and myrrh, resins from trees that grow in the interior. For centuries, Socotra was a trading hub. Frankincense from Socotra was shipped to Egypt, to Rome, to India. The island was on the ancient maritime trade routes, but it was never colonized in the way other islands were. Too remote, too difficult to access, too harsh. The British established a small presence in the 1800s as part of their control over Aden. The Sultan of Mera controlled Socotra nominally, but the island was largely self-governing. In 1967, when South Yemen became independent and later Marxist, Socotra became part of South Yemen. When Yemen unified in 1990, Socotra became part of the Republic of Yemen. And when Yemen collapsed into civil war in 2015, Socotra found itself caught between factions. The war changed Socotra. The UAE, involved in the Yemen conflict, established a military presence on the island. They built a base, they improved the airport, they increased flights. Suddenly, Socotra was more accessible than it had been in its entire history. Tourism increased, developers arrived, plans were made for resorts, for infrastructure, for modernization. Conservationists panicked. Socotra was designated a UNESCO World Heritage Site in 2008. The entire island, not just parts of it, the whole thing. Because the ecosystem is that unique, that fragile. Increased access meant increased pressure, tourists trampling sensitive areas, development disrupting habitats, introduced species arriving with cargo, goats overgrazing because the human population was growing. The dragon blood trees were already struggling. Now they faced additional threats, tourists carving names into the bark, developers clearing land for construction. The bottle trees, another endemic species, were being uprooted for gardens. The entire ecosystem was under pressure from forces it had never faced before. But here's the paradox. The war also isolated Socotra again. Flights became irregular. Tourism collapsed. The UAE pulled back. The island returned to a kind of enforced isolation. Not by geography this time, by conflict. And in that isolation, the ecosystem got a reprieve. The pressure eased. Not because of conservation efforts, because the island became too difficult to reach again. Let me tell you what it's like to be on Socotra. You land at the airport in Hadibo, the main town. The airport is small, one runway. The terminal is concrete and functional. You step outside and the heat hits you, dry, intense. The landscape around the airport is scrubland, low bushes, rocky soil, nothing remarkable. Then you drive into the interior. The road is rough, unpaved in places. You climb into the mountains and suddenly you're somewhere else. The vegetation changes, the dragon blood trees appear. At first, one or two, then clusters, then entire groves. They cover the hillsides, their canopies overlap. From a distance, they look like a forest of umbrellas. Up close, they're massive, ancient. Some are hundreds of years old. The trunks are thick, gnarled. The bark is rough. The branches twist and divide, creating the characteristic mushroom shape. You stand beneath one and look up. The canopy blocks the sun. It's cooler here, shaded. The silence is profound. No birds singing. Socotra has few native birds, no mammals except bats. The ecosystem is dominated by plants and reptiles. Lizards are everywhere. Geckos, skinks, chameleons. Over 30 species, many endemic. They scatter as you walk. The ground is rocky, limestone outcrops, sparse grass. The soil is thin, but the trees thrive. They're adapted to these conditions. They've been adapting for 20 million years, and now they're running out of time. The beaches are surreal. White sand, turquoise water. The Indian Ocean stretches to the horizon. The underwater world is as unique as the land. The reefs around Socotra are home to species found nowhere else. Fish, corals, crustaceans. The isolation affected marine life too. The waters are productive. The nutrient upwelling from the monsoon supports massive populations of fish. Whale sharks pass through. Manta rays, dolphins. But the fishing is largely unregulated. The local population depends on it, but commercial fishing vessels from other countries are moving in. Illegal fishing is a problem. The Yemeni government has no capacity to enforce maritime law. The UAE tried to fill the gap, but their presence was political, not conservationist. The reefs are being damaged. Overfishing is depleting stocks. The marine ecosystem is under pressure just like the land. Here's the thing about Socotra that haunts you. This is one of the last places on Earth that looks truly alien, not because it's hostile, but because it evolved separately. It's a window into what life does when left alone for millions of years. It diverges, it specializes, it becomes strange and specific and irreplaceable, and it's fragile. Every endemic species on Socotra exists on a knife edge. If the dragon blood trees die out, they're gone. Forever. If the cucumber tree goes extinct, there will never be another tree in the cucumber family. If the language dies, 2,000 years of oral history disappears. This isn't theoretical. This is happening now. Climate change is accelerating. The monsoon patterns are shifting. The temperatures are rising. The endemic species adapted to very specific conditions can't adapt fast enough. And human pressure, even reduced by conflict, is still there. The goats are still overgrazing, the trees are still being damaged, the reefs are still being overfished. Socotra is being lost in real time, not to deliberate destruction, but to indifference, to conflict, to the slow, grinding pressure of a changing world. UNESCO designation means nothing if there's no one to enforce it. Yemen is in civil war. The government is fractured. There's no budget for conservation, no capacity for enforcement. The Socotri people are trying to survive. They can't be expected to prioritize conservation when they're dealing with conflict, poverty, and isolation. International organizations can't access the island reliably. Flights are irregular. Security is uncertain. The few conservation projects that exist are underfunded and understaffed. So Socotra sits in the Arabian Sea, still strange, still unique, still deteriorating. The dragon blood trees still stand, for now. Their red sap still flows when the bark is cut, but the forests are thinning, the younger trees are dying, the canopy is opening up. In a generation, the forests will be scattered individuals. In 2 generations, they might be gone, and when they're gone, that's it. You can't recreate 20 million years of evolution. You can't bring back a species that exists nowhere else. Once it's extinct, the loss is permanent, absolute, final. Stand on the Dixam Plateau at sunset. The dragon blood trees are silhouetted against the sky. The light turns orange, then red, then purple. The canopies are black shapes against the colour. The wind moves through the branches. The air cools rapidly. The stars begin to appear. More stars than you've ever seen because there's no light pollution. The Milky Way is a river of light across the sky. This moment is the same moment someone could have experienced 1,000 years ago. 5,000 years ago. 10,000 years ago. The trees, the stars, the silence. Unchanged. But it's not unchanged. It's ending. Not with fire, not with violence, just with slow, inevitable decline. The trees die. The language fades. The culture adapts and loses pieces of itself. The island changes. And one day tourists will still come. They'll still see dragon blood trees, but they'll be seeing the last ones. They'll be standing in a museum that doesn't know it's dying. Socotra is 240 kilometers off the coast of Yemen. It's 20 million years separated from the mainland. It's 37% endemic species. It's dragon blood trees and cucumber trees and desert roses. It's a language with no written form. It's a people caught between isolation and the modern world. It's a UNESCO World Heritage Site that no one can protect. It's the most alien place on Earth, and it's disappearing. Not because we're destroying it deliberately, but because we're not saving it deliberately either. Some islands become forbidden by law, some become forbidden by danger. Socotra is becoming forbidden by loss. The island that evolution built is running out of time, and when it's gone, Earth will be less strange, less unique, less alive. That's Socotra. The island that looks like another planet, dying quietly in the Arabian Sea.